I spoke with a pastor a few weeks ago about the marriage ministry at his church, and he was curious about what I was doing, and I asked him about what he did at his church. He explained that he had a great therapist that he knew, and he had referred numerous couples to him. And that's great. I hope that every pastor has a therapist that they trust, because it's important for couples to find help. But if all pastors did was to refer couples that ask for help, they're missing a huge need. Churches have a huge opportunity to build strong and healthy marriages. And guess what? To really help build strong marriages, it takes more than a great referral. Let me give you 3 reasons why. 1, most couples won't talk to their pastor about marriage problems. There was a national survey of 3,000 individuals that asked how often are people thinking about divorce. And the study found that in 30% of the marriages, one or both spouses had thought about divorce in the last 6 months. About half of those people were thinking about divorce frequently. Well, that's a big number. That's 30%. Our churches are full of people that have thought about divorce. And will they talk to someone? Well, only about 1 in 8 people had talked to a religious leader about their thoughts. That means for every 1 person that talks to their pastor, there are 7 that haven't. Well, that's a big difference. That's a lot of couples that have needs. 2, most won't go see a marriage counselor. The study also found that only 1 in 6 had talked to a marriage counselor. So most couples don't go see a professional. Before I got involved with marriage ministry, I thought that couples would go meet with someone for help. And I have learned from experience that most couples don't seek help, even though it's available. That means that there are people sitting in church that aren't getting the help they need. But guess what? They continue to come to church, even though they're thinking about divorce. Well, 3, most couples want to work on the marriage. Here's the good news. Most of the people that were thinking about divorce wanted to work on their relationship. The people that thought of divorce less frequently were the most hopeful. And of course, those that thought about divorce more frequently had less hope. And for some, they would only work on their relationship if their partner would also work on it. But people thinking about divorce can get out the other side. The study asked if all the participants, if they'd ever had serious marriage problems. And the majority said yes, but many no longer thought about divorce. That means that most of the respondents were able to work through their relationship issues. Well, that gives me hope. So let me review. Half of the couples have thought about divorce. 30% have thought about divorce in the last 6 months. And the others have repaired their marriage. And they asked them what they did. The top 4 things that they changed were 1, their commitment. They just became committed to the marriage. 2, they changed attitudes. So they adjusted some attitudes that made things better. 3, they worked on it, and they worked at fixing some problems and improving the relationship. And 4, patience. Over time, things just got better. Well, when I look at those top 4 things that couples did to improve, I realize that these are areas that can be worked on by the church. So what's the implication for the church, for your church and my church? Let's be honest. Thinking about divorce is something that comes across people's minds. This is very, very common. And most people don't admit it, and they won't ask for help, but they want to improve. You just remember there's a big population inside of your church that's thinking about divorce right now. And about half of them are thinking about it frequently. So that's a need. And the interesting part of this is that many of these couples don't immediately take any action. Some studies have shown that couples wait for 6 years before they decide to do something. And during this time, they probably aren't seeing a therapist, but they are coming to your church. So I get excited when I think about the role the church can play in helping couples to have a healthy relationship. If we want to build strong marriages, we need to do more than refer people for counseling. We need to address the divorce thinkers. Thinking doesn't have to turn into a divorce. It can become the motivation to work on the relationship. And if we want to build strong marriages in our church, we need to offer programs that help to address the doubts and fears about marriage. And we can offer hope. We can encourage commitment. We can help people to recognize and change attitudes. And we can encourage couples to work on their marriage and to have patience. The church can be effective with marriage education. I I talk about marriage mentors, and some churches have called these people things like marriage coaches or marriage champions. And some churches have, called, marriage group leaders or just have group leaders on a marriage topic. And I'm not sure what's going to work best in your setting, but I know that having regular marriage education, marriage small groups, and the opportunity for couples to be honest can help. So let me give you some tips. Don't be alarmed by divorce thinking. Divorce thoughts are very common, and it's natural to have the thought when the relationship isn't going well. 2, most couples have issues. Many couples have had issues in their marriage. That is perfectly normal. But 3, create marriage education events. Equip mentors, champions, coaches, and marriage small group leaders.